What is up, everyone, and welcome to another video. Before we hit the computer and start coding, hit that subscribe button down below, leave a like if you're enjoying the content. Also, drop a comment down below and let me know what you want to see coded up next. In this video, we're on episode 16 of our Hello World series, and we're going to be coding up a loading overlay for our website. We're going to be using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. We're going to create a Hello World loader JavaScript object with a show and hide function, so all we have to do anywhere on our website is call hello world loader.show, and the loader will appear. And then whenever we want it to disappear, hello world.hide. Links to the GitHub, the live site, will be in the description below, and I'll see you on the computer. Welcome to Hello World episode 16, loading overlay animation. The repository you will need for this video is the Hello World repository, jstolpe/Hello World. A link will be in the description. If you guys haven't been following along, you can scroll down here to the README and you can click on the YouTube episodes playlist and begin at the very first episode. Also, the live site is right here at helloworld.justinsolvay.com, so you can see the code in action. And so I have this repository checked out onto my local host, so all I have to do is hit localhost/hello_world, and here is our Hello World website. Now, before we start coding, we want to make sure we're working on a branch for this code and not working on the main branch, because that's a no-no. So we're going to do a git checkout -b, and we're going to name this episode 16, loading overlay animation. So we successfully created a new branch based off of the main branch. If we do a git branch -a, see that we're on our episode 16 loading overlay animation branch, so we're all set to start working. Now back to our Hello World on localhost. What I like to do is I like to start with the HTML and the CSS, get that working, and then create the JavaScript to make it show and hide. What we want is two divs. We want one div that's going to take over the screen and cover up everything. We don't want anything to be interactive. The Hello World button, the links up here, or the menu in the top right. We're basically going to recreate this overlay here that you see when you click on the menu, but it's going to also cover up the menu icon here in the top right corner, so you cannot click on that either. Then on top of that overlay here, we're going to create another div, and it's going to be displayed right here in the center of our screen with our logo and an animation to make it rotate. Alright, so in our text editor, we're going to hop into our repository, Hello World, Views, Templates, Defaults, HTML. This is the default template that gets loaded for every page that we've created on our entire Hello World website. Anything you want included on any page in the entire site goes in this file. So it makes sense to place our loader in here since we want to be able to access it from any page on our website. So I'm going to come down here to the body container, and outside of our div body container is where we're going to place our loader. We're going to start by creating our overlay, which is the one that just takes over the page, makes you not able to click on anything. And we're going to call this loader overlay. Now we need to style up this class. So we're going to head over to our app, assets, CSS file, and our templates default styles. This is also the default CSS styles, and this style sheet is loaded on every single web page as well, just like the templates default html.php file. So we're going to come down here and we're going to create our loader overlay style. And we want to give this a nice dark background, RGBA. We need the A because we want it to be a little bit transparent so you can see through it. So we're 26, 26, 26, and we'll do 0.8 opacity. And that is the color for our background. Then we're going to position it so it's fixed. This means it's always going to be exactly where we want it to be on the page. It's going to be a fixed width of 100% and a height of 100%, which means that it's position fixed, so it's always going to take up 100% width and 100% height, H-E-I-G-H-T, of the screen. Top of 0, so it's at the very top of the page, and we're going to give it a Z index of 4. That makes sure it's above all the other things that we've created so far on our Hello World website. Alright, so we have our loader overlay in our styles created. We have our loader overlay div right here. Now back on our localhost Hello World website, if we refresh the page, we should see our overlay on top of everything. Perfect. That's exactly what we're looking for. Nothing is clickable, but there's a little bit of opacity on it so you can see through to the website. Our loading overlay div is complete. Now the next div we're going to be creating is going to be even on top of this overlay. It's going to have our logo and it's going to have an animation so it spins looking like the page is loading. Back over here, we're going to create another div under our loader overlay. Call this class loader container. Now we need to style up our loader container. So right under our .loader overlay, we're going to style up our container. We're going to give this a position fixed as well. And we're going to specify it top 50% and left 50%. Then we're going to transform it. We're going to translate it to -50%, -50%. And then we need to make sure we give this a Z index And since we made this 4 here, our loading overlay, we need to make this 5. We want the icon spinning on top of our overlay that we created. Now with our loader container div on top of our loader overlay div, z-index4 and z-index5, we can place our image here. We're going to wrap our image in our div, call this class equals loader, and here's where we will place our image. Let's check our website quickly to make sure that our image is indeed displaying on top of our loader overlay. Refreshing our page and you see there's our image. However, it is not rotating. We need to give this image right here a little bit of CSS animation. To do that, we need to target our class loader and then the image tag. So in our styles, we'll do a .loader class and then the image tag. Now we want to create an animation for our loader. Animation, we're going to call the animation rotation. We're going to set it to loop every 2 seconds, infinite, and linear. And that will just make sure that it rotates every 2 seconds smoothly. Alright, so we have to define our rotation keyframes now. We're going to do at keyframes rotation. We're going to set the from, and we're going to set the to. So we're going to transform it from 0 degrees to 360 degrees. Refreshing our page, and our loader image in the center is rotating nicely every 2 seconds. Now we're going to create our JavaScript to make this show and hide depending on where we need it on our website. So we're going to head over to our repository on our local host, Hello World, app, assets, JavaScript. In here, we're going to create a folder for our loader. Call it loader, and in this loader folder, we're going to create a script.js file, and this is where our loader JavaScript will live. Back in our text editor, we're going to open up our JavaScript loader script.js file, and in here, we're going to create a loader object. Now the first function in our loader helper object is going to be our constructor function, which is going to be the same name as the object we've created. And this function is going to take care of all the setup. So we're going to move our 2 divs here. We're not going to have them in this HTML file. We're going to actually have JavaScript that writes this HTML out to our body. And in here on our page on load function is where we will initialize our loader. First thing we're going to do is do variable self equals this. Then we're going to create a self for the object dot loader class prefix. And we're going to check for loader class prefix in the arguments that we're passing in when we instantiate the object. And if it's in the arguments passed in, we're going to use it along with a dash. Otherwise, there is no prefix. The reason we do this is this will allow for multiple loaders on the page in case you want to have multiple loaders. Then we're going to define a default for our loader HTML. We're going to check for loader HTML in our arguments as well that we're passing in. And if loader HTML being passed in when we're instantiating it, we're going to use it. Otherwise, we're going to default to an h1 tag. Let's do some simple loading text, ... So here is where if you don't specify the loader HTML, like our little spinning world image, it would just spit out h1 loading ... whenever the loader was shown on the screen. Alright, so those are the arguments that we're going to be able to pass in when we create our loader helper. Let's go back to our HTML template and get our script included on our page. We're going to go ahead and copy over this script here for our template script JavaScript. And now we're going to change the path to JavaScript loader script.js. Now our script.js object right here that we're creating is going to be included on every page we load for our website. And so now we can create our hello world loader variable, hello world loader. And so we're going to use our new loader helper over here and set that to our hello world loader. Create a new loader helper, and here's where our args come in. So this object right here gets passed along to our loader helper object here, our constructor function. So our args, loader class prefix, and loader.html can be specified right here in our object that we're creating. So for our loader class prefix, we'll say hello world. Then we also have the option to set our loader HTML. And for our loader HTML, we want to use our image that we created right down here. I'm going to copy this and paste it right here. Now our loader HTML will exist in our arguments that we're passing in, so we're not going to use the default h1 loading. We're going to use our custom HTML for the loader. When we have our hello world loader instantiated right here, we can hop back to our script.js file and start creating our divs that we want to write out to the DOM. So we're going to create a JavaScript div right here, document create element div, and we're creating this div right here, our loader overlay. So we've created the loader overlay div. We want to give that a class, and we're going to add our loader overlay, which has our styles on it, and we're going to also add a class to it that has our prefix on it, plus loader overlay. And the reason we're doing this again is because if you have instantiate multiple loaders on the page, for example, if you did this and then you did hello world 2, Now you have two loaders on the page, and the prefix, you'll be able to target each of them individually because we're going to add on the hello world 2 dash loader overlay. So with our loader overlay div created, we need to append it to the body. So we're going to document.body.append child. And all we have to do is append our loader overlay div. We're going to hop back to our template here. We're going to comment this out for now so we know that our JavaScript is working. Alright, so we refresh our page and you'll notice that the image has gone away, but the loader overlay is still here. And that's because our JavaScript has written out the overlay div to our web page. So if we inspect this here, let's zoom in a bit here, and you'll see here, there's our div class loader overlay. And now you can kind of get a better idea as to why we have that prefix in there. So in case you have multiple loaders on the page, the loader overlay class, it's prefixed in case you have multiple loaders on your page. And looking over here to the right, you'll see our loader overlay class and the styles that we assign to it in the styles.css file. Now back in our loader helper object, we're going to do the same thing for our container div, which is the one that contains the image. So we're going to call this loader container div. We're going to create another div for it, and we're going to do another add class on it as well. So this one is also targetable if you have multiple loaders on a page. Loader container div.class list. We're going to add our loader container class, and then we're going to also add our loader container class with a prefix on it. Back on our HTML, we're going to delete our overlay container. We're done with that one. It's successfully been written out with JavaScript. Inside of our loader container, we have our class loader. So we're going to create another div for our loader. We're just going to call this loader div. Now our loader container div has a class of loader, so we're going to go ahead and do loader div.classlist.add. And we're simply adding our class loader to that div. Just like that. And our loader div here contains the image, the actual loader that we want to display. And that's based off of how you instantiated this object. So it's either going to be the custom loader HTML we passed in, which is our image right here, or it's going to be the default h1 loading ... if you didn't pass anything in. So we have to make sure that we set the inner HTML for our loader. And we're just going to set this inner HTML equal to the loader HTML depending on what the object got instantiated with. Alright, so we have our loader div created here. Now we need to make sure that this loader div gets inside of our loader container div. Sorry, loader containery div. Let's get rid of that Y. Alright, loader container div dot append child, and we're just going to append on our loader div to our container div. And now our loader container div is all set up with the loader inside of it and the loader HTML we set up. All we have to do now is make sure that we append that out to the actual document body, called document body append child, and we're going to append our loader container div now. Now our overlay div is added to the HTML body, and so is our loader container div. So we can actually go ahead and get rid of all of our HTML down here because the JavaScript is taking care of that, and it's writing it all out to the HTML body for us on page load. So now back on our web page, if we refresh it, you'll see that it looks like it did before, except for JavaScript is taking care of all of this for us instead of our HTML. If we zoom in here, you'll see there's our loader overlay, and it has our prefix on it in case you need to target it. You'll see the loader overlay is right here, and you'll see that our loader container is here as well with our image that we specified when we created the object with JavaScript. Now just to test this out and so you guys know that it's actually working with the JavaScript, let's come over here to our Hello World loader object and comment out our loader HTML. What do you guys think will happen if I comment this out? Well, if we comment this out, when the loader helper gets instantiated, it's going to default to our h1 loading tag. This is a default loading tag in case you don't want to pass anything into the object. So now over here, if we refresh our page, instead of our world spinning, we should see loading ... in an h1 tag. There it is. That's the default loading for our loader. We expand our body tag down here. See that inside of our loader container, loader, we have our h1 loading ... The show and hide functions are pretty straightforward. We're just going to be showing it when you call show and hiding it when you call hide. Basically display none or display block. Over in our styles loader overlay, you're going to make sure that the loader overlay class always has a display none on it. We want to do the same thing for our loader container. Now when we refresh the page, the loader is gone. However, if we inspect the page, it's not really gone. It's there, but it just has our display none on it. You'll see these are grayed out because they have display none on it, which we just added in our CSS file. Loader overlay, display none. If you click on these and uncheck them, so display none, there's our overlay taken over the page. And our loader container, uncheck the display none, there's our loader. So back in our object, we need to create another function outside of our constructor. Promise loader helper.prototype.show equals function. We're going to do the same thing for hide. Both of our functions will get our variable self equals this. And then all we have to do is target the loader that we're actually on. So if we have multiple loaders, we're going to be targeting it with our class prefix. So we make sure that when we call hello world loader dot show, it's only targeting the loader that we instantiated with this prefix. So we do document dot get element by class name, and our class name is going to be self loader class prefix plus loader overlay. And we're going to get the first one of those. Since we have a prefix on it, there should never be multiple divs on the page with this same class. .style .display equals block. Then we're going to do the same for our loader container. And now when we call the .show, we're setting the overlay class and the container class to block, which is showing it. So all we have to do is copy this into our hide function, and we're going to set this to none, display none. Alright, so now we have our loader, hello world loader instantiated. Let's refresh our page, head over to the console, and we just have to do hello world loader dot show. Now what's going to happen is it's going to show the overlay and the loader div, which is the two divs that we're creating with JavaScript. Hit enter and we have shown our overlay. Now if we do the same thing but we do .hide, the loader disappears. Now we can call hello world loader dot show or .hide anywhere in our JavaScript on our website, and it will show and hide the loader just like you saw there from the console. A good example of this might be when the user wants to sign up. Let's say when they click the sign up button, we want the loader to show. So we could go over to our JS sign up script.js, and here's our server sign up form. And just to make sure that the loader is working as intended, we're going to comment out all our front-end validation, posting to the server, and we're just going to call hello world loader.show. Now when we refresh the page, instead of all this validation happening, when I click the sign up button, the loader will show, just like that. Let's revert those changes, and what we want to do is if the front-end validation form is valid, we're going to show the loader because the front end checked out, so we're going to show the loader, and while the back end is thinking with our AJAX call, the loader will be taking over the screen. And if the back end for some reason doesn't like the data that was sent, well, we're going to place our alert here, not valid, by simply hiding our loader. .hide. Now, one more thing before we wrap up the video. We don't ever hard code things like this because if we push it to production on the live site, well, it's not going to work. So we're going to update our global hello world object. This is in JavaScript, templates, default, script. Here's our hello world object, our initialize function. And in this object, we're going to create a base URL. We'll assume it's an empty string. So over here we have our hello world initialize. We're going to add an object to our initialize function. And our base URL will be passed in whenever you initialize our hello world. And we're going to initialize this to whatever domain we're on, which is our href base URL in PHP. So now our base URL here will be localhost on localhost, and if it's actually on the domain, it will be the domain name. Then we're going to also create an assets image URL. And like our base URL, it's going to be the link with the domain to the assets images folder. So assets, images, and so now we can access anything in here by calling hello world.assets image URL. Let's call this images. Let's make that images. So we're going to create another variable here, calling it assets images URL. Now our initialize function is taking in an object. We'll call it params, and we have to set our base URL. This.base URL equals params.base URL. Then we're going to set our this.assets images URL equals params assets images URL. So now this whole path right here, http localhost hello world app assets images / all the way up to the slash, can be replaced with hello world dot assets images URL. This way, no matter what server this code is living on, it will always work, as long as you have the base URL assets targeted at the correct folder in PHP. Now, with our hello world object, we have to pass along some parameters so we can set the server environment base URL and assets image URL. And those get set right here on initialize. We're passing in a params object, and our base URL and assets image URL, these need to be semicolons. These should be getting set now based on the params coming in. Let's go back to our hello world homepage. Let's inspect this. Head over to the console and make sure that it's still working. Hello world loader.show. Hit enter. It's working fine. Inspect our element. Let's check out the image. There's our file path. Localhost hello world app assets images. Everything up to the slash has now been set in JavaScript as our assets images URL. And that is a wrap on Hello World episode 16, loading overlay animation. We've used HTML, CSS to style it up, and we've created a nice JavaScript object that can actually be reused on any website. All you have to do is instantiate it with the correct parameters. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hit that subscribe button, leave a like, drop a comment down below, and let me know what you want to see coded up next. I'll catch you later.